Mars, one of the brightest points in the sky, has been a planet that has attracted people's curiosity for many years. Also known as the Red Planet, Mars is one of the closest planets to Earth in the solar system. Mars is a planet that has excited the discoveries of scientists and astronauts in history and that people plan to colonize in the future. Mars is one of the closest planets to Earth in the solar system. It is also known as the fourth planet and is named after the Roman god of war, Mars. Mars is similar to Earth in terms of its distance from the Sun, orbit, atmosphere and surface properties. However, it has many similar features, with its reddish soil on its surface and icy poles. Mars has a solar day of approximately 24 hours and 39 minutes and its annual rotation is approximately 687 Earth days. The atmosphere of Mars has a very sparse and thin structure compared to the atmosphere of the Earth. Most of the Martian atmosphere is made up of carbon dioxide and contains only small amounts of water vapor, nitrogen, and argon. The pressure on its surface is much lower than the pressure in the Earth's atmosphere. There are various features on the surface of Mars such as craters, volcanoes, huge canyons, and temperature differences. The surface of Mars is covered with sediments, lava flows, and dunes. The reddish color on its surface is due to the presence of the iron oxide mineral hematite. Mars also draws attention with the potential for signs of life discovered in recent years. The icy poles on the planet's surface, the groundwater, and the water resources that may once have existed on the planet are some of the most essential features necessary for life to exist on Mars. Mars is approximately 78 million kilometers from Earth and is 50% more distant from the Sun than Earth. The surface of Mars has a rather fractured and mountainous structure. Mount Olympus, the highest mountain on the surface of Mars, is the highest mountain in the solar system at 27 kilometers. Also, the Valles Marineris Canyon on the surface of Mars is 10 times larger than the Grand Canyon on Earth. Mars is quite cold compared to Earth. The average surface temperature is approximately minus 63 degrees Celsius and even the highest temperatures remain below zero. The atmosphere of Mars has a very sparse and thin structure compared to the atmosphere of the Earth. Most of the Martian atmosphere is made up of carbon dioxide and contains only small amounts of water vapor, nitrogen, and argon. Since Mars cannot create a magnetic field similar to Earth, it is exposed to the harmful radiation of the Sun. The reason why Mars does not have a magnetic field is that the dynamic movements in the core of the planet do not occur as they do on Earth. There are various features on the surface of Mars such as craters, volcanoes, sediments, and lava flows. The reddish color on its surface is due to the presence of the iron oxide mineral hematite. The poles on the surface of Mars are icy and ice thicknesses can be up to about 3 kilometers. Mars has been a planet that has attracted people's attention throughout history. It was first followed by the ancient Egyptian and Mesopotamian civilizations and its name comes from these civilizations. However, the real discovery of Mars took place when people began to look at the sky through telescopes. 17. At the beginning of the century, with the first telescopes, dark and bright regions on the surface of Mars began to be observed. Along with observations made until the early 19th century, many features on the surface of Mars were discovered, such as polar ice caps, craters, mountains, and valleys. In 1877, at a time when Mars was getting closer to Earth, Italian astronomer Giovanni Schiaparelli described the fine lines and pits on the Martian surface as channels. This term, channels, was also used by British astronomer Percival Lowell, leading to speculation that there is life on Mars. However, with subsequent observations, it became clear that these channels did not actually exist, but simply due to an observation error. Until the early 20th century, discoveries about Mars were generally limited to observations with a telescope. But in the 1960s, more information about Mars began to be learned, thanks to space exploration. The first Mars mission, Mariner 4, flew to Mars in 1965 and discovered features such as craters, troughs, and mountains on its surface. Later, NASA and other space agencies sent many spacecraft to gather more information about Mars. These spacecrafts include many missions such as Viking, Mars Pathfinder, Mars Global Surveyor, Mars Odyssey, Mars Express, Mars Reconnaissance Orbiter, Curiosity, and Perseverance. Through these missions, more has been learned about the surface, atmosphere, and magnetic field of Mars. Evidence of water has also been found on Mars. These discoveries have provided more information about the potential life conditions on Mars, making the planet more attractive for human exploration. Mars is a planet with a low-density atmosphere. Mars' atmosphere is about 100 times thinner than Earth's atmosphere. This is because Mars is smaller in size and its gravitational force is lower than that of Earth. About 95% of Mars' atmosphere is made up of carbon dioxide. Other gases include nitrogen, argon, and oxygen. Due to the thin atmosphere, the temperature on the surface of Mars changes rapidly. Daytime temperatures can rise up to 20 degrees Celsius in equatorial regions, while nighttime temperatures can drop to -73 degrees Celsius. The atmosphere of Mars also changes in different seasons. Unlike Earth, Mars has an inclined orbit. Therefore, the seasons on the surface of Mars are different from those on Earth. In the northern hemisphere, ice-covered poles form in winter, while in summer the ice melts and Arctic seas emerge. A similar cycle occurs in the southern hemisphere. Carbon dioxide in the atmosphere of Mars is a high-density greenhouse gas. Therefore, an increase in the amount of carbon dioxide in the atmosphere can increase the temperature of the planet. Some studies suggest that the rate of carbon dioxide in Mars' atmosphere may have been similar to Earth's in the past, and that the planet's temperature conditions may have been closer to Earth. The atmosphere of Mars is also affected by solar winds. Solar winds can blow gases from Mars' atmosphere into space. Therefore, the thickness and composition of Mars' atmosphere can change over time. Mars is the second planet with the most moons in the solar system after Earth. Mars has two known natural satellites, Phobos and Deimos. Both moons orbit Mars and have attracted attention since they were discovered in 1877. Phobos is Mars' largest moon and is about 22.2 kilometers in diameter. Since it is the closest satellite to the surface of Mars, the details on its surface can be easily observed. Phobos' surface is littered with craters, which were formed as a result of collisions caused by the moon's proximity to Mars. As Phobos orbits Mars, it gradually shrinks in its orbit by approaching the surface of the planet and is expected to break up in about 50 million years to form a ring around Mars. Its other moon, Deimos, is smaller and has a diameter of about 12.4 kilometers. The craters on Deimos' surface are less obvious than on Phobos, and the moon's surface is flatter. Mars has rings as well as moons, but it is quite faint and difficult to observe. These rings form as a result of orbiting dust and tiny particles on the surface of Mars. Mars is one of the most likely candidates for life to exist among planets. There are several reasons for this. First, the presence of water was discovered on Mars. There is evidence that lakes, rivers, and oceans existed on Mars in ancient times. In addition, the presence of glaciers on Mars has also been detected. Water is one of the most basic components for the formation of life. Secondly, evidence for the existence of organic compounds has also been found on Mars. Organic compounds are one of the basic building blocks of life, and organic compounds discovered on Mars raise hopes for the existence of life on the planet. Third, the results of previous studies suggesting that life may exist on Mars should also be taken into account. In 1976, the Viking spacecraft searched for life on Mars, but the results were negative. However, these results are thought to be inaccurate, and the results of more recent studies are rekindling hope for life on Mars. There is no definitive answer as to whether life exists on Mars, but the planet's properties raise the possibility that life may exist. Future discoveries and research may provide a clearer view on this issue and provide a definitive answer as to whether life exists on Mars. Based on the assumption that life in the universe could have arisen under conditions similar to those on Earth, the measure of a planet's habitability, that is, the extent to which life can develop and continue on a planet, seems to be closely related to the presence or absence of water on its surface. This depends on whether a planet in a solar system is at the appropriate distance from its sun. The fact that the orbit of Mars is half an astronomical unit further from this suitable belt where Earth is located causes the water to freeze on the surface of this planet, which has a thin atmosphere. However, liquid water flows in the past of the planet reveal the potential for habitability of Mars. According to the data, the water on the Martian surface is much saltier and much more acidic than necessary for life. The lack of a magnetosphere of the planet and the fact that it has an extremely thin atmosphere is a major handicap. The heat transfer on its surface is not great, its defense against meteors and solar winds is almost non-existent, and there is insufficient atmospheric pressure to keep water in liquid form. According to the data, the planet was more habitable in the past than it is today. Despite all these negativities, it cannot be said that there are no organisms on Mars or that they have never lived. As a matter of fact, some positive results were obtained in samples brought from Mars to detect microorganisms in Martian soil during the Viking program in the 1970s. However, these results led to a debate in which many scientists participated, and a definite conclusion could not be reached. On the other hand, Professors Gilbert Levin, Rafael Navarro Gonzalez and Ronald Pape, using the data obtained with the Viking program, prepared a new taxonomic system, and in this system, the life species on Mars was discussed under the name Gillivinia strata. Experiments conducted by the Phoenix Mars lander in the following years showed that Martian soil contains an alkali containing sodium, potassium, and chloride. This nutritious soil was well suited to supporting life, but there was one more problem to remember: life could be protected from intense ultraviolet rays. Finally, organic compounds were detected on the Martian ALH-84001 meteorite at the Johnson Space Center laboratory. The conclusion was that these were the first species of life on Mars. On the other hand, spacecraft orbiting Mars have recently detected low amounts of methane and formaldehyde, which have been interpreted as hints of life, because these chemical compounds dissolve rapidly in the Martian atmosphere. The most well-known of the formations that are claimed to be a biological origin on Mars are the formations known as dark dune spots. Discovered for the first time by the Mars Global Surveyor with photographs sent in 1998-1999, dark dune spots are formations that can be seen especially in the south polar region of Mars, between 60 degrees to 80 degrees latitude, appearing on or under the ice sheet, the nature of which has not yet been understood. They appear in early Martian spring and disappear in early winter. It is claimed that these are photosynthetic colonies that remain under the ice sheet during the winter, that is, microorganisms that perform photosynthesis and heat their immediate surroundings. In addition, scientists are working on artificial photosynthesis in order to create an environment that can provide living conditions on Mars. On September 28, 2015, it was announced that there is liquid salt water on Mars. With the discovery of salty water, scientists have stated that the probability of finding life on Mars has also increased.